were gentlemen. I mean, they weren't assholes. They were nice men, but they were hardcore.
This is the story about Sam Elliott, the man with a deep, gravelly voice like the wind blowing through desert cliff walls, the man with the mustache that has become an icon for an entire generation, the man who, when he walks into a room, makes every conversation stop. But today, we're not talking about his immortal roles. We're not talking about that glorious 60-year career. Today, we're talking about the things he's never forgiven. About 6 names etched into his memory like unhealing wounds. About why, at 80 years old, Sam Elliott has decided to no longer stay silent. And when you hear this whole story, I promise you, you'll never look at Hollywood the same way again. To understand why Sam Elliott is angry, you have to understand who Sam Elliott is. He's not a product of Hollywood. He didn't grow up in shiny mansions in Beverly Hills, didn't study acting at prestigious art schools, wasn't molded by producers looking for the next face for a movie poster. Sam Elliott grew up near real ranches. He knows the smell of damp earth after a night rain. He knows the feeling of waking up before dawn when the whole world is still shrouded in darkness. He knows the weight of honest labor, the kind that leaves marks on your hands and in the eyes of those who've lived it. When he first stepped onto the screen, he didn't bring a character, he brought himself. And that's what set him apart from everyone else. For Sam Elliott, acting has never been just a job. It's a calling, a sacred summons that demands absolute honesty. Every line must come from a real place. Every scene must carry something that can't be faked. He believes audiences sense dishonesty, not through logic, but through instinct, through the way an empty performance touches the ear but never reaches the heart. And that's why, when he sees others treat this craft like a pastime, like a ladder, like a tool for building a personal brand, the fire in him starts to burn, quietly, steadily, unquenchable. The first name, the name that made Sam Elliott stand up and walk away from a conversation, never to return, Kevin Costner. On the surface, these two men seem strangely alike. Both are tied to the image of the West. Both carry a rugged charm that not every actor has. Both are icons of a fading America. But Sam Elliott sees the difference, and he can't ignore it. To him, Kevin Costner is the postcard version of the West. Beautiful, perfect, lit from the right angle, staged with the precision of a commercial photo, but missing something no lights can create, missing the real essence. The essence of someone who's actually lived what they're portraying. When Yellowstone premiered and became a TV phenomenon, all of America went crazy for it. Costner as the patriarch of a ranch empire stretching across Montana's majestic valleys. Spectacular scenery, tense drama, and Costner's warm voice pouring into audiences' ears like fine whiskey. Sam Elliott wasn't convinced. He got an offer to appear in the series. They wanted him for a small role, a cameo. A nod of respect from a legend to a new sensation. He declined immediately. His response was brief and straightforward, impossible to misunderstand. It was soap opera TV in a cowboy hat. He had nothing more to say about it. And that's exactly what makes Sam Elliott. Sam Elliott. He doesn't need long explanations. He doesn't need debates. He just needs to stay silent and walk away. That silence says it all. But this isn't just about Costner or Yellowstone. This is about a deeper belief that the West isn't scenery. The West is ethics. It's endurance. It's the way people face hardship without complaining, without begging for pity. And when that ethic is wrapped in Hollywood production coats, when it becomes optimized entertainment for views, it's no longer the West. It's just a nice outfit worn by someone who doesn't understand its meaning. Then came the year 2021, and Sam Elliott caused an earthquake. The Power of the Dog, the film by director Jane Campion, a work hailed by critics as a cinematic masterpiece. Benedict Cumberbatch as Phil Burbank, a rough, mysterious Western rancher carrying unhealable wounds. The film won awards. Cumberbatch got an Oscar nomination. Everyone said it was the best performance of the year. And Sam Elliott sat down on a podcast and said straight out what he thought. His voice was calm, almost too calm. He asked a question, not a question seeking an answer, but a question to make a point. What does this British man know about the American West? What followed was a series of criticisms so direct that listeners had to pause to make sure they heard right. He didn't just critique the acting, he critiqued the way the film redefined the Western man in a way he saw as completely wrong. To Sam, The Power of the Dog took everything he cherished most about the West: strength, reticence, the grit to face the world without needing sympathy, and turned it into a cold psychological analysis, turned the Western man into a subject for study, stripped away the soul and replaced it with academic dissection. Hollywood was outraged. Cumberbatch's fans flooded every corner of the internet to defend their idol. Critics called Sam outdated. People said he was defending a toxic notion of masculinity. People said he feared change. Cumberbatch stayed silent. That was the smart choice of a man who knew no response could win this fight. And Sam Elliott didn't retract a single word. Not one word. He stood firm like the man he's portrayed on screen his whole life. Steadfast. No apologies. No further explanations. Was he right? That's a question each person must answer for themselves. But what can't be denied is, he spoke from his heart. In a world where every statement is weighed, managed, and optimized for crowd approval, Sam Elliott stood up and said what he believed without checking if anyone agreed. That's a rare kind of courage. There are people who come to acting because they can't do anything else, because there's something inside them that needs to be told, needs to live in characters that everyday life doesn't allow. And there are people who come to acting because it's the shortest path to fame. Sam Elliott believes he knows which type Ashton Kutcher is. When Netflix paired them in The Ranch, many viewers were excited. 2 generations, 2 styles, 1 shared screen. It seemed like an interesting combination. On set, Sam was professional as always, on time, knew his lines, focused on the work. He never made things harder than necessary. But inside, he observed, and what he saw unsettled him. Kutcher doesn't lack talent. That's not the issue. He has natural charisma, the ability to own the room, a smile that cameras love. But to Sam Elliott, all that is just surface. Kutcher invested in tech startups when no one in Hollywood was doing it. He built a media empire. He appeared on business magazines more than movie ones. And to Sam, that said it all. Acting is a means, not the end. He was overheard telling a confidant that Kutcher acts like someone who learned acting from the internet. Not a compliment, but not personal criticism either. It was an observation about a new generation of Hollywood that he believes is losing the most important thing. What's the most important thing? According to Sam Elliott, it's devotion. Not public, not for others to see, but the quiet devotion in the shadows of the rehearsal room, when no one's watching, when no cameras are rolling, when it's just you and the character forming inside you. Kutcher never showed him that. And to Sam Elliott, without that, everything else is just a performance of a performance. This is the most complex case, because Nicolas Cage doesn't lack talent. In fact, he has it in abundance. He has an Oscar. He has career-defining roles in Leaving Las Vegas, in Adaptation, in films that even his haters have to admit are brilliant. But his style, that's the problem. Nicolas Cage acts with his whole body, with eyes wide open to the point they seem about to pop out, with dramatic gestures, with the way he takes up space and leaves no room for anyone else. To Sam Elliott, that's not acting, that's performing. When they did Ghost Rider together, Sam observed Cage from afar. Polite, professional, always proper, but never warm, never truly connecting. Later, in private conversations, Sam spoke about actors he believed had turned attention into the goal instead of the tool. He didn't name names, but those close to him knew who he meant. He called that style of acting fireworks, bright, noisy, impossible not to notice, and gone right after. Real fire, to him, doesn't need to be noticed. It burns on its own, quietly, steadily, without stopping. And anyone near it feels the warmth without being told they're standing by fire. Cage won an Oscar. Cage built a huge fan base that worships him as a unique, crazy legend. Cage left an indelible mark on American film history. and Sam Elliott still shakes his head. Not out of jealousy, not out of refusing to recognize talent, but because he believes attention is never the measure of art, and when you act to get noticed, instead of acting to tell the story, you've started going the wrong way. That's a line Sam Elliott never allows himself to cross, and he can't understand why others cross it so easily. If all the previous names were disagreements about the craft, about philosophy, about what acting is and isn't, this is a completely different story. This is a story about friendship, and about the pain of watching that friendship fade away, not because of betrayal, not because of anger, but because of the silent erosion of time. Jeff Bridges and Sam Elliott were once two men forged from the same piece of metal. When they met, they recognized it immediately. The way they approached work, the reticence, the belief that well-timed silence can say more than any written line. They didn't need to explain their acting philosophy to each other. They understood through the way they looked on set. The Big Lebowski is the perfect proof of that harmony. Two completely different characters but speaking the same language. On-screen chemistry that couldn't be faked. And off-screen, their friendship was the same. Genuine, no performance needed. Then everything changed. Not suddenly, not because of a specific event, but slowly, like rainwater soaking into dry ground, unnoticeable until everything has shifted. Jeff Bridges won an Oscar for Crazy Heart, and that was the start of a transformation that Sam saw, but was powerless to stop. Bridges started appearing in glossy magazines. He stood on big stages, giving political speeches. He became an ambassador for charities. He was managed, directed, packaged in the way Hollywood loves. And the simple, genuine man Sam once sat with over coffee talking about the craft, that man gradually disappeared behind all the new layers. Sam isn't angry. That's important to understand. He doesn't feel betrayed. He doesn't think Bridges did anything wrong on purpose. He's just sad. The sadness of someone watching something precious fade under too harsh sunlight. The sadness of losing not an enemy, but a brother in the craft. The only one he ever felt completely understood by. In a rare interview, when asked about old friends in the business, Sam said a short sentence that took listeners a few seconds to grasp its full weight. Some people change, he said. Some just reveal who they always were. Bridges didn't respond. He didn't need to. The two men no longer appear at shared events, no longer publicly support each other's work. The space between them isn't filled with conflict. It just exists, quietly and invisibly like the shadow after sunset. And sometimes, the absence of something that once was present is heavier than any judgment. The last name. And according to those close to Sam Elliott, this is also the name that frustrates him the most. Not because of personal hatred, but because of what Jared Leto represents as what he calls the greatest sin of modern Hollywood. Arrogance wrapped in the guise of art. Method acting, the technique requiring an actor to fully immerse in the character, is an artistic tool with a long and respected history. Marlon Brando used it. Robert De Niro used it. Daniel Day-Lewis took it to heights few dared imagine. But those actors did it in silence. They didn't announce it. They didn't speak to the press about their bizarre preparation processes. They disappeared into the character and appeared on screen with the result. That's it. Leto is different. When filming Suicide Squad, he sent strange and disturbing things to co-stars. He claimed to live fully in the character. He turned the whole set into a stage for his performance of dedication, and what does Sam Elliott call that? It's clownery, not talent, clownery. To him, when you have to announce to everyone that you're dedicated to the role, it means you're performing dedication instead of truly living the character. Real art doesn't need an audience, even on set. Real art happens in the dark, in moments no one sees, and its result only shows on screen. When the process becomes the story instead of the result, it's no longer art, it's marketing. And in Sam Elliott's eyes, turning the set into a stage for your own ego is a betrayal of everyone working beside you, of co-stars, of the crew, of the audience waiting in theaters. He was overheard telling a confidant that if it takes that much effort and weirdness to get into a role, maybe that person chose the wrong profession. That statement is direct to the point of almost cruelty. But that's Sam Elliott, never saying what he doesn't believe, never softening the truth just because it's hard to hear. Looking back at all 6 names, you might ask, what is Sam Elliott protecting? This isn't about jealousy. He has a career most actors can only dream of. This isn't about refusing change. He's lived through 6 decades of Hollywood's changes and still stands. This isn't about being rigid or outdated. He's seen so many generations come and go. What Sam Elliott is protecting is something simpler and harder than all that combined. He's protecting honesty. Not honesty in the sense of not lying, but honesty in a deeper sense. What people in the business sometimes call integrity. Something that can't be bought, can't be faked, can't be polished. To him, Hollywood is going through a crisis no one wants to admit. Not a talent crisis, there are still plenty of talented people. Not a technical crisis, film effects are at an unprecedented peak. But a crisis of meaning, when a film is judged by opening weekend numbers instead of story depth, when an actor is judged by social media followers instead of what they leave in audiences' hearts after the screen goes dark, when attention is seen as equivalent to art, that's what Sam Elliott can't accept, and he will never accept it. Even if it makes him the loneliest man in a town that long ago switched to a different language. At 80, Sam Elliott is still Sam Elliott. His voice is still deep, like distant thunder. The mustache is still the unmistakable mark. The eyes still look straight into the lens in a way that makes viewers feel seen through. He has no social media accounts. He doesn't need anyone to confirm his existence with hearts and emojis. He doesn't need to be mentioned in others' conversations to know he's still important. He just needs to walk into a room and be himself, and that's enough. That's a presence that can't be faked, can't be learned, can't be mass-produced in acting classes or personal training courses. It comes from a life lived true to oneself, from the times he said no when he didn't believe yes, from accepting loneliness instead of compromising with what's wrong, from 60 years of never putting fame above honesty. Those who hate him call him rigid, outdated, unable to adapt. Those who understand him call him one of the few in American entertainment who still keeps his soul intact. Both could be true. And maybe that's exactly the point Sam Elliott wants us to get when he finally decided to no longer stay silent. He's not trying to change Hollywood. He knows that's impossible. He doesn't delude himself that one voice, no matter how deep, can reverse a flow that's long shifted. He just wants to say what he sees, so those with ears to hear can hear, so those on that path can look back and ask themselves if they're going the right way. That's all a man like Sam Elliott can do, and maybe that's all that's needed. You've just heard the story about 6 names, about disagreements, about faded friendships, about ideals clashing with reality. But the real question this story raises isn't about Sam Elliott, not about Kevin Costner or Benedict Cumberbatch or Jeff Bridges. The real question is about us. How do we view art? What criteria do we use to judge the value of an actor, a film, a performance? Are we drawn to the noise or to the depth? To the outer glamour or to something realer, harder to grasp, but deeper in the heart? Sam Elliott has spent his whole life saying that difference matters, and he's never changed his mind. No matter how much the world around him changes, no matter what price he pays. That's the kind of steadfastness that even those who disagree with him have to quietly respect. Thank you for following along this far. If this story touched something in you, leave a comment below. Share your thoughts about Sam Elliott, about Hollywood, about what you think is important in art and in life. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, now's the time to do it, because we have many more stories like this waiting to be told.